fantasy drafts coming up in the next few weeks. I've done mock drafts and here to break it down with picks 1 through 4. So the first pick is Christian McCaffrey. I took, obviously, he's the number one pick on all the board. Then second round, I took Devon Achane, where I think that's a great value for Devon Achane. I think he has potential to be anywhere from a top 6, top 10 running back this season. Then I went the receiver route, one Chris Olave, where I think that's good value in the third round, where he's usually a mid-second, third rounder. Then fourth round for Lamar Jackson to be there at the 4.1. That's a great value as well for Lamar Jackson at that value. If you could get a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts in the fourth round, that's hard to pass up. So I get Jackson in the fourth. Then in the fifth, Trey McBride, who I think it's good value in the fifth round for Trey McBride. He's a top 3 or 4 tight end coming into the season compared to Sam Laporte and Travis Kelce, who's going a few rounds earlier than a Trey McBride. I think it's good value for McBride, and last season was the monster year for him. Then sixth round, Christian Kirk, where receiver definitely dropped off quickly. A lot of receivers came off the board early, so Christian Kirk is my number 2 wide receiver going into the season. Not enthused about it, but like I said back, I hit great. I went McBride and Lamar, so I got an elite quarterback, a pretty elite tight end, 2 running backs, and then wide receiver, like I said, dropped off. Then Deontay Johnson, 7.1, I think was a decent spot to get Deontay Johnson to fill out the flex. I know most leagues people play with either 3 receivers or 2 flexes, but this is Yahoo's standard mock draft. Only have to the flex position, but mostly the leagues I'm in as well, I do either 3 receivers or 3 receivers and 2 flexes. Xavier Worthy, who I think could possibly be the number 1 wide receiver this season for this Kansas City Chiefs team. We know Hollywood Brown, he's hurt with a shoulder injury. He's most likely going to miss the first few weeks of the season. Rashee Rice, it wouldn't be surprising to me if a suspension is coming down. So to get Xavier Worthy as a bench piece and someone who definitely can have a breakout rookie season, this is the type of players you want to target in these mid to later rounds of the young players with upside, because you know what you're going to get for the most part from some veterans. And now going back to the running back position, 9-1 to get Brian Robinson Jr., who I think has 3 down back potential. Even I know Austin Eckler's over there for the Commanders. For him to come off the bench as my 3rd running back, I believe is solid, where last season he had a solid year, especially receiving the football. He was surprising as well. Then I go back to another back, Gus Edwards, at the 10.12 area, where Edwards last season, he had a lot of goal line touches. Obviously going from Baltimore to the Los Angeles Chargers, but I believe him and J.K. Dobbins will split at worst case over there. To get Edwards as my 4th running back, I believe is not a horrible move. Then back to wide receiver, 11-1, get Jordan Addison. Addison last season, pretty solid year. Him as my 5th wide receiver on the roster, I think is good value as well for Jordan Addison. I know no more Kirk Cousins. It's going to be McCarthy or Sam Darnold at quarterback, but still to get Addison this late in the draft, I think it's a good round to get him. Then Keon Coleman, who could be a breakout rookie at the 12-12 area in this draft. Obviously, Curtis Samuel there, Keon Coleman, Shakir as the top 3 wide receivers. And we don't know who's going to be the number 1. And with Josh Allen at the quarterback, he makes wide receivers better. And he's definitely a wide receiver this late in the draft, I think, is a steal. Then Blake Corum at the 13-1 position. Blake Corum, he's one of the better handcuffs in all the NFL, I believe, is the rookie behind Kyren Williams. Kyren, he missed some games last season. To get a running back like Corum in the 13th round, I think is good value and one of the top handcuffs. And then at defense and kicker, Evan McPherson and the Philadelphia Eagle defense. And a note, I take defenses and kicker the last 2 rounds of the fantasy draft. There's no point for you to go out there and waste a decent round pick where you could get good bench depth and possibly breakout candidates in that 8th to 13th round. Then you just wait the last 2 rounds to fill it out to the final roster with the first pick, Lamar Jackson, Chris Olave, Christian Kirk, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, Trey McBride, Deontay Johnson at the flex position, McPherson, Phillies D, Xavier Worthy, Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards, Jordan Addison, and then Blake Corum. So in this draft, I believe my wide receivers are a little weak. If any position I believe is weak coming out of the first pick, but I think I got decent backups at the receiver position. I get Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, and Xavier Worthy, young players who are up and coming in this league, and I think can make an impact. And to get them at a good ADP price, I like those players in that spot. And like I said, these young players are who you want to target, and we could break out now to the second draft. Second pick overall, I like Tyreek Hill over CeeDee Lamb. So I took Hill at the 1-2. Then I went with his teammate Devon Achane once again at the 2-11. I'm a big on Achane this season. I believe he's going at a good ADP where you could get him mid-second, early third round in most fantasy drafts, where I could even argue he's an early second round pick with his upside and his home run ability. Then once again, Chris Olave at the 3-2 position. I think Olave, he's a mid-second, early third at worst, and a solid number 2 wide receiver for fantasy owners. Then Stephon Diggs at the 4-11. I know Diggs on a new team. Last season, first half of the year, he was great. Second half, he didn't do much, but I still believe Stephon Diggs can help fantasy owners in a big way, even though Tank Dell and Nico Collins are over there. But to get Diggs in the 4th round, I think it's good value. Then at the 5-2 area, Kyler Murray, I think he has a good season coming off the ACL, played a little bit last year. And in the 5th round, the only quarterbacks that I would cut off to Patrick Mahomes if he's there, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, which most likely those quarterbacks won't be there in the 5th. And CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray are those quarterbacks at earliest I would take in the 5th round. After that, I will wait. Then in the 6th round, I get that second running back filled in. DeAndre Swift, maybe a little bit of a reach at the 6th one. But a lot of people sleeping on DeAndre Swift, in my opinion. Well, last season, he had a solid year for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as a number 2 running back, even on a Chicago Bear offense that's loaded this season with Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and Cole Kmet. I still believe DeAndre Swift a solid role. And in worst case, if you wait on running back like I did after getting my top back early in the draft, and Swift is your number 2 guy in the 6th round, I don't think it's all that bad. Then I went running back once again, Jalen Warren. Warren last season was a PPR machine. I think he's better than Najee Harris at this point. And to have Warren come off the bench where I know my running back number 2 isn't strong, where Swift could go either way, I like Warren in that spot. Then I go to receiver again at the 8-1 with Deontay Johnson. I think Johnson can have a decent season as the number 1 over there in Carolina. And they're going to be trailing ball games early and often where they're going to have to throw a whole lot. So to get Johnson 8-1 is someone coming off the bench and his number 4 wide receiver on the roster. I like it. Brock Bowers, I punted the tight end position kind of in this draft. But to get Brock Bowers with his upside, even though I know he's on a Raider team at the 9-2 position, with either Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew at quarterback, I still believe he could carve out some decent numbers in his rookie year. And he's one of the more highly touted tight end prospects to come out in the last decade. Then at the 10-11, go with Jonathan Brooks. I know Brooks, he's out for the first 3-4 weeks of the season, but Brooks, he's my number 4 running back in this fantasy draft. And to get him in the 10th round with his upside and with the Panthers towards the end of the year, they're going to be playing the young players. And like I said, if Brooks didn't tear that ACL in college, he most likely would have been a first-round pick in the NFL draft in the upcoming season. To take a flyer on him in the 10th round, I like Xavier Worthy. Once again, I go with. And I'm big on these rookie wide receivers this season, especially Worthy. He's like that Tyreek Hill type he could be with Patrick Mahomes in this Chief team. And like I said already, with Hollywood Brown banged up and hurt and Rashee Rice with a possible suspension looming, I think Worthy, especially at 11-2, is a steal. Then back to Keon Coleman once again, who has potential to be the number 1 wide receiver over there for the Buffalo Bills. To get Coleman at a good spot at the 12th round. Then 13th round, I go Rico Dottle and then Daniel Carlson in the Houston Texans defense to round out the roster. So in this second spot, wide receiver is definitely a strong suit, obviously, for my roster. And running back, I don't think it's horrible as well. Devon Achane, DeAndre Swift, and tight end I just waited on and still got a good prospect in Brock Bowers. So the final roster, Murray, quarterback, wide receiver Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, wide receiver 2, Devon Achane, DeAndre Swift, Brock Bowers, Stephon Diggs, Daniel Carlson, Houston Texan defense, Jalen Warren, Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman, and Rico Dotto, who I think has a chance to be the starting running back for this Dallas Cowboy team. And to get him in the 13th round, I believe is good value. Now to the 3rd pick in the mock I did. Tyreek Hill, once again, I got in this one. Like I said, I have him over CeeDee Lamb in my rankings, and you can't go wrong with Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, in that 2nd spot or in the 3rd spot. Him or Lamb, it's pretty close, but I just prefer Tyreek Hill, especially with Lamb holding out. And I don't believe Dak Prescott once again puts up the numbers he did last year. So Tyreek Hill at the 1-3 area. 2nd round, I go with Drake London. I think he has a great season with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Then third round, you would think I would try to fill it with a running back, but I'm just not reaching on running backs this season. If I find a good quarterback in that third, fourth round, or obviously try to load up at the wide receiver position where I have three great receivers and then work at the running back position, that's what I'm going to do. So in that third round, the Josh Jacobs, I wasn't going to reach for. James Cook, I wasn't going to reach for, or Rachaad White. So I go with Josh Allen at the 3-3 area. Then once again, 4-1, I go with Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs in the fourth round to be a second or third wide receiver, I believe. There's nothing wrong with that, especially in these smaller leagues. If you got Stephon Diggs at the flex from this spot, I think Stephon Diggs still could be a 1,000-yard receiver. I'm not going to say he's going to go out there week in and week out and put up huge numbers, but still as a fourth-round value, I like it. Then at the 5-3, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, I believe he's right up there with a Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce, and to get him 2 or 3 rounds later is great value for Mark Andrews, because before he got hurt and was out for the season last year, he was right on pace with those guys. So good value pick at 5-3 with potential to possibly be the number 1 tight end. Then Brian Robinson once again might have reached for him a little bit, but I had to start hammering away at the running back position because I filled my other positions. I went Brian Robinson, 6'10". I believe Robinson, he could be a workhorse. I know Austin Eckler was there, but all the short yardage, and he could catch the football out of the backfield, so I like him there. Tajay Spears, I know him and Pollard, most likely a 50-50 split, but I believe Spears is a better receiver out of the backfield, and a lot of work he got last season with Henry there. So I know the running back position I punted for the most part, but still Robinson and Spears could possibly be breakout candidates, I believe. Then once again, in the 8th round, Zach Moss, I went with to hammer out the rest of my running back position and get some depth there. Then Xavier Worthy, who I'm real big, obviously. The first 3 mocks I've done, I took him at the 9-3 with the potential to be the number 1, obviously, wide receiver there. Then running back, once again, to fill out the depth, Jonathan Brooks, 10-10. Like I said, he's going to miss the first 3-4 weeks of the season, but down the line, with his upside and potential, I believe Brooks could be a nice running back this season. Jerome Ford, we don't know if it's going to be Nick Chubb ready in the beginning of the year. So Ford is my number 5 running back, I believe, is decent. And last season, we saw some good flashes out of Ford. Once Nick Chubb went out for the season, then Keon Coleman, once again at the 12-10 area. Keon Coleman, potential to be the number 1 wide receiver. And I know some of these drafts, I'm taking a lot of the same guys, but at the rate they're going and the ADP value, you just can't pass up players, even if you have more than 2 or 3 fantasy teams, and you just keep taking the same players. These are the upside type of plays you want on your roster, guys who could break out and get at a low price, and a rookie or second-year wide receivers who are going to put up numbers. And mostly throughout history, wide receivers have more consistency in fantasy football than running backs. And then to round out my receiving corps, Mike Williams of the New York Jets in the 13th round. Mike Williams, we know he's a good deep ball threat. Coming off TL as well is Mike Williams, but I believe he can help fantasy owners, and especially at this price. And to round out Jason Myers and the Detroit Lions defense to round out the roster. So the final roster, Josh Allen, quarterback, Tyreek Hill, receiver 1, Drake London, receiver 2, Brian Robinson, Tajay Spears, my running backs, Andrews at the tight end position, Stephon Diggs once again at the flex, Jason Myers, Detroit, kicker and defense, Zach Moss coming off the bench as my third running back, Xavier Worthy, Jonathan Brooks, Jerome Ford, Keon Coleman, and Mike Williams. I believe it's a pretty rounded out team. Obviously, like I said, I punted at the running back position because I just wasn't going to reach for guys who I think should be in the 4th or 5th round in the 3rd. And I went with Josh Allen there. But anyway, I still like the roster. And if a Spears or Robinson breaks out, then I would be fine at the position. And the final mock was the 4th pick overall. CeeDee Lamb falling to 4, so you take him there every time. Chris Olave once again at the 2-9. A lot of people sleeping on Olave. I know he had some games, but I'm getting him easily in these drafts at the late 2nd round position where he's a 1,000-yard receiver and he just has to bump up the touchdowns. Then 3rd round, went all in on wide receiver once again, Nico Collins. Last year, great year. Him and Stroud have a great rapport. Finally get a running back in the 4th round, James Cook at the 4-9. And I think that's a fine position to get James Cook in the 4th round. Then I get C.J. Stroud, and I got the double up with Stroud and Nico Collins. I believe Stroud in that 5th, 6th round area is good value, and he's one of the more accurate and already IQ quarterbacks in the league. Now I go to running back, try to shore up the position with some good bench pieces, and Swift at the 6'9" position is my starting running back at number 2, which I could live with, honestly. Swift had some games last year. Then Brian Robinson, once again, who I'm big on this season as a potential breakout candidate at the 7-4. Then Jaylen Warren at the 8-9 range, I believe is great value for Jaylen Warren, who obviously could be the starter for this team. And also as well, I don't think Najee Harris is all that great. Tight end, I didn't really try to go for a top tight end, but to get Dallas Goedert in the 9th round, I believe is good value. Once again, Xavier Worthy, 10th round, great value. Nick Chubb, we don't know when he's going to return, but obviously Chubb, he's a first-round pick the last couple seasons, but I don't believe he's going to play at that level coming off the ACL. But to get a lottery ticket like Chubb in the 11th round, I believe is great value. Then Dontayvion Wicks in the 12th round at the tail end over there. I think Wicks, he's a solid wide receiver and I can have a big part in his second season with this Green Bay Packer team. Christian Watson, he's back from injury and all. But Wicks, so far, I think he's got a shot after a nice preseason ball game and last season at the end playing well. And then Jalen Polk from the Patriots, we don't know who's going to be the starting wide receivers there. And like I said, once again, young wide receivers and guys with potential breakout candidates I got on this roster. On the lineup, C.J. Stroud, CeeDee Lamb, receiver 1, Chris Olave, receiver 2, James Cook and Swift, which I think is a doable backfield, especially with the wide receiver and at the quarterback position. Tight end Dallas Goedert, I think a good get in the 9th round. Nico Collins at the flex. Tyler Bass, Miami's defense. And then my bench, Brian Robinson. Once again, I like getting him in these mocks as a bench running back, or even if I had to punt the running back position, I'm having him as a starter. I don't think it's the worst thing going. Then Jaylen Warren, good pick in the 8th round. Xavier Worthy, once again. Nick Chubb, Dontayvion Wicks, and Jalen Polk, 2 potential upside wide receivers. So that's the breakdown in these mock drafts. And I noticed just not to reach whatever comes to you in the draft you take. I wouldn't reach for running backs in these fantasy drafts. I know running back's an important position, no doubt about it. But with receivers so loaded, you could get some great receiver combos like you saw I did in these mock drafts, and then go with a strong tight end and a strong quarterback, and then really hit at the running back position in that 6th to 9th round range where there's some good value. Like a Robinson, he'll always be there most likely, 6th to 9th round range. Jaylen Warren's in that range as well. Then in the other mock drafts, Tyjae Spears, another good value pick. So I just wouldn't reach and let the draft come to you. Like I said, if your good quarterback falls in that 4th round range, you got to go out there and get him. So that's the breakdown from picks 1 to 4. And I think it's a good test to see what you can get in these fantasy drafts and what to expect. And the next video, I'll be reviewing the breakdown of mock drafts from rounds 5 to 8 that I did and see how those teams turned out.